We are live. Welcome to my thoughts on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, Episode 6, Adapt or Die. Yeah. Spoilers for the episode and everything MCU and adjacent leading up to it. Yeah, the episode is rated like TV-14, so will this video be another episode I loved? I think that that is sufficient preamble. What? An emotional roller coaster? Sorry, that came out wrong. What an emotional roller coaster. Holy crap. I guess I'll just briefly start by addressing, I think I accidentally made like a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and forgot about Enoch, although not for 4 decades in my defense. In the video on the episode before this one, yeah, absolutely, obviously loved his presence. Great Terminator reference with, come with me if you wish to continue to exist. And just, yeah, absolutely loved it. So glad that Enoch is back on this show. This episode manages to juggle a lot of different elements. I guess I'll just briefly, so Daisy and D'Souza. I really appreciate how this show continues to bring in villains that, like, each time they bring in one, it's like, oh, right, I didn't really think about it, but I guess this person has been just off screen for some of this other stuff, or maybe they've been on screen, but they weren't a villain until now, I feel like every single time, it's just, yeah, as soon as they introduced Hydra, which of course tied into, the second Captain America movie. Yeah, every so often someone will pop up and it's like, oh right, yeah, we knew Hydra was doing stuff like this. Makes sense that there was a person in charge of it. Oh, the reason Hydra is, an octopus is because there's a religion around the octopus alien, all these things, and now, more recently Chronocoms, and now Nathaniel, and yeah, like, I never thought that he would be, like, a villain. I mean, I guess he might not be any past this episode, but still, for this episode, made a formidable villain, and yeah, like, if Gideon hadn't sacrificed him to their god, which, the Chronocoms obviously prevented that, yeah, I can totally see. So he's like, I mean, I tried to dabble, but it didn't really appeal to me. Do I look Hydra to you? Do we look Hydra to you? I mean, the wealth helped, but, now you came to my life 3 years ago, threatened to kill me. You have superpowers. I like that. And yeah, I mean, he managed to extract, using Daniel, no, yeah, some Daniel Whitehall, I think, because yeah, and she even brings up Jia Ying. Yeah, he managed to extract just enough to give himself quake powers. But yeah, if you just like willy nilly put that in, that's not necessarily gonna, because like even Daisy didn't have full control of it right after her metamorphosis. So yeah, he ends up hurting himself. It was a different thing with Jia Ying because that was healing ability, and healing kind of takes care of itself, but with him, with her power, yeah, that's not exactly how it's gonna go, and yeah, just again a spin on the, this show does love its smarmy white cishet male, power tripping, and I'm here for it. I've loved every single one of these villains. Yeah, he's explaining this whole thing, and D'Souza is trying to make a move and being a little too obvious about it, and Nathaniel's like, if you try to move your arm, it'll feel like it's being torn off. See, I finally remembered where the guy that they couldn't crack, because he, the guy who kept saying, oh, must be the white guy who's in charge in the 50s episode. That's where I know him from. And maybe now you do too, and if not, I don't want to spoil exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. I guess I'll say, if you need another hint, there was an actor on that show for a while who showed up in something MCU. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, and you know they bring her back in, and she's like passing out, and he's like, "You've never given up on anything in your life, I presume. I have known you for that long. Now fight." But yeah. Because it's true, like in certain circumstance, if you lose consciousness, you might never come back. It might, yeah. And thankfully, by the end, they have her in the healing tank. I don't know if they're gonna have her have like long-term ramifications, maybe emotion, like trauma response, probably. But this is not quite the same as when May was in there after coming back to life after dying and such. Um, but yeah, and you know, he tells about how he lost the use of his legs, and yeah, genuinely compelling story. He's such a talented actor. Yeah, so glad that they managed to bring him back on here. It genuinely was criminal that Agent Carter didn't get more episodes. Really glad that Haley Atwell is still getting to do cool action stuff. You know, fairly recently, Mission Impossible 8. A movie that did not eat. I think that does bring us to, yes, and the thing when, you know, you had a little fight left in you, because, yeah, yeah, really, really clever. You know, and the guy comes in, and you know, is like, just, you know, don't worry about me. It's like, I just want my phone call. But yeah, that was a great, and like D'Souza, like I don't know if he was giving him a chance or just like making just covering up that he was going to attack. I guess there's some possibility that if he had been like, oh, she does need help, you know, but yeah, because he does keep refusing help, and okay then, and stabby stab stab. Um, yeah, really, really nicely done there, and yeah, good reveal on, you know, because yeah, it's like, wait, is she losing control of her powers? Because that happened before, you know, it's just been a while, but no, it's Nathaniel, and yeah, let's see, because yeah, you know, it's what did he say? My bones are breaking, or something like that, and yeah, we were told that early on, you know, that was until she got to Afterlife and got some help. Yeah, she was hurting herself, and there were also the gauntlets. Although, did we end up learning that those actually hurt her more than helped her? I forget. Um, yeah, I think that does cover that entire chunk. I guess I'll talk May and Phil D. I really appreciate it. He got to really Coulson out when he was, you know, there's 3 things you were wrong about. You know, that whole bit was so Coulson, such classic. Yeah, he is coming back, although he blew up. I don't know if they really are going to bring him back. I mean, I don't know. I felt like he could have just thrown them down there and just gone up. I mean, I get why he couldn't do it there at the end, because there was one on the ladder, and the hunter things were opening. Cloning process incomplete. Um, but yeah, great stuff with the, you know, I think it really works the way that the Chronocoms now, you know, they are, as is noted in this episode, they are imitating personalities now, because that was, you know, yeah, adapt or die. They realized that's why they keep finding us, you know, because they did. They kind of kept just discovering, you know, in the 30s, in the 50s. So yeah, by the time of the 70s, they were like, we got to do something different. So they started copying, and yeah, I mean, we already knew they had this kind of tech, because that's how they got the minds of Fitzsimmons. Let's see, but yeah, the fact that, you know, yeah, the agents know about May's, you know, touch empathy thing, but The Chronocoms don't, and they've noticed, oh, hey, you know, physical touch, that's a thing humans do. Chronocoms don't particularly, but yeah, so, you know, when the female one goes up behind them and touches both of them, to Stoner and Phil MD, it seems like, yeah, that's what she would do. If she wasn't doing that, if she wasn't physically touching them, it would actually feel weirder. But May is like, I don't feel anything, you know. So yeah, very nice little, and yeah, Phil MD like provoking her, and finally she's like, I don't have to take this kind of crap from, you know, a simulated version of you, and he's like, there, that's all I wanted. You know, I don't like your attitude. I don't have an attitude. Yeah, your attitude is no attitude. My attitude is no attitude. Yeah, and you know, they managed to convince Stoner. That was also great. You know, he needs something for his face, so they got the frozen meat that they were gonna cook to celebrate. You know, that's such an American thing. Red meat to celebrate 4th of July, America. And then we have the yeah, you know, the thing about no, they take our faces. See, that's how it works. Ah, right. Because yeah, it sounds completely ridiculous, obviously. I think by and large the MCU has been pretty good at acknowledging when something is, you know, I don't know. I know some people don't particularly like it. I think there are times where they go a little too far with it, but some of this stuff, I'm just grateful it's finally on screen. I'd rather have it on screen with a big budget and, you know, really talented actors and such. Like, remember the kind of people they used to get... that came out wrong. The level of talent for actors that they used to cast for these, like, it was abysmal if you look back at, like... I mean, I'm sorry, but there is... I think it would be terrible if there was a movie where Reb Brown played Captain America. And, you know, thankfully that is not the case. Unfortunately, that's because there's 2 of them. I haven't watched them, but they sound terrible. You know, I appreciate Spoonie trying to put a, you know, yeah, have some fun with that. And, you know, I think Lindsay Ellis said all that, you know, I'm not sure I would have anything to say if I did actually try to watch those things that she didn't say in her loose canon on Captain America. Anyway, yeah, that was the kind of thing, you know. Buff McLarge-Huge played Steve Rogers, a character that, you know, the MCU made so much more complex. Yeah, I'm okay with them every so often saying, this is kind of silly, huh? As long as it's there, I'd rather have that than not. And that's what we used to get. And I'm not trying to say, you know, I'm not trying to make a false dichotomy here. Moving on. Yeah, the thing with, you know, my own face is a problem now, which, like, yeah, even he doesn't really like that, you know, like, Coulson was like, it's kind of cool seeing Stoner, you know, but yeah, nobody really likes that greeting, you know, so that was fun to have, because that was back when it was recent, you know, when it had recently been recorded. And the thing with, you know, we'll remove your face soon enough, sir. Don't get smart with me. That's not the most... There's gonna be something else that smarts if the, you know, Film D and May hadn't been able to stop them. And the thing with, you know, saying, thanks for saving my skin, literally. So we don't hear exactly what it is May, because she didn't seem very happy about what, you know, Stoner touches her, and then she's like, ugh, you know, there was some kind of thing she got off him, you know. She did a vibe check, and that ain't it, Chief. I mean, I think I have an idea of, I think him being so careful about HR, you know, I would like to buy you a beverage, if that, of your choice, if that would be agreeable. You know, even when he's kind of skeezy, it's very difficult for me to hate Patrick Warburton. Even when, like, Seth MacFarlane is giving him pretty lackluster material, he's hard to hate. But yeah, I do take issue with, because I do think he was just putting on a front there. He had ideas for what he wanted, and he never did learn that she, you know, he was knocked out by the time she said, "Oh, I felt that he wasn't trusting us." Yeah, I think that covers them. Yeah, I'm not gonna go over every single thing Philemdi says to the Oracle. It was all great, and the responses the Oracle made, and the way, you're answering every question I have. I don't see why not, and the smile, and then near the end it's like, oh crap, that was a great, and that was also, yeah, at the very start we see what I guess is like the episode opens on like the camera pulling out, very nice effects there, pulling out of what I think is the time stream, although I can't see it and not go, mutation. It is the key to our evolution. And I think, right, some great fights against Chronicoms. Holy crap, Mac was badass taking out. Yeah. I think that does pretty well. Oh yeah, and the thing with, all the hunters being phase, the next phase, that was a really cool, yeah. And then we move on to round 2. Yeah, I think that does. I can't put it off any longer. Yeah, so Mac and Elena and the. Yeah, L Mom D and LM Dad. That was such a solid twist. Like, I did not see that coming at all. Yeah, okay. And it's one of those things, like, they genuinely do have nice moments in there, because, and, by the end we realize, oh, those weren't really them, but they did have the memories and personalities of them, and that's also there at the very end. They're stuck in the 1970s now because, understandably, Mac is distraught about this situation. I think that does, yeah. There's so many great little moments, cutting through the wall and getting in there, and then he goes directly for the hug because he misses them, and then they start calling him Huggies or Hugger, Sir Hugs a Lot, something like that. It's the same basic bear, and yeah, it was a good, because she's like, oh, I did not agree to that, and he's like, dude, back off. This is not okay. Yeah, really appreciated that. This is the kind of thing, like, if this had been made in, like, the 80s, it would have just been like, aw, he really misses his parents, and we wouldn't be supposed to be thinking about, to them, this is a complete stranger. They're grateful that they're about to be rescued, but that doesn't mean that they're okay with this sort of thing, so, yeah, really appreciate it. And he even apologizes himself. And he's like, please don't call me sir. Because, yeah, like, a lot of kids not super comfortable. I guess unless you want to send them into the cornfield, probably not super comfortable about your own dad calling you sir. But he has no idea. Well, he's pretending to have no idea. By the end of the episode, they do say, we could have had a great time together, son, or something like that. Just, yeah. Yeah, and Elena being better at handling this. And the thing about, this wasn't how I hoped that you would meet my parents, and just, yeah. And they've been gone for a while. Yeah. I think that pretty well gets us to, yeah, just such great, the little things of, like, because, like, there's the thing about, the father is a little stubborn when they're talking about, because he's like, well, I mean, you've got our backs to a 3-ton wall, this is not a good situation. And then you have the thing about, if you can't solve one thing, solve another one, so that's where he gets. It's kind of like sometimes Mac gets frustrated, understandably, and he also has he's very solution oriented. He has a drive to him, And you have the thing about, this isn't his mother says this isn't about us, it's about our sons. So that's where he gets this kind of intense empathy that he has, where he really wants to protect the people he is responsible for. So really nicely done on that. Yeah, and the thing about, well, we can't break down the door, but and the thing about like cutting the hydraulics, like I know just enough about engineering to say that sounds like it would work. Yeah, like hydraulics, without that, yeah, I'm not going to embarrass myself by saying something more, but I just feel like that makes sense. Cutting the hydraulics would disable the thing. Yeah, I believe that is fairly, yeah. And the thing when he hurt his arm, check his arm. It's just a scratch. Nothing. It's yeah. And he didn't even have to go into a gyroscope to see his own hand as a robot part. And then we have, yeah, 1,000 internet points to anyone who understood that reference. Let's see. I think that pretty well gets us. Yeah, what was the next thing they're able to get out of the yeah, the thing about talking about the kids. They're really messing with us, and messing with Mac and Elena with all this. Just yeah, and the thing with what would really work for a kid, an ATV. Just hear me out here, and yeah, John puts his hand on May, and she's like, this is bad. This is really bad. And yeah, the reveal, and I the moment that it was clear that John must be, I was just sitting there thinking, please not also her, but yep, both of them, and really cool with the snapping neck of Chronicom, because like yeah, I mean it's not gonna like feel pain or whatever, but you're severing some wires from the brain, or their equivalent of a brain, so it would work, yeah. Oh, right. I do gotta briefly talk about Deke trying to be the hero, and once again, not having. Sometimes he's a little overeager, takes out Enoch, and and Simmons is like, what are you doing, and explains the whole thing, and I do appreciate, and Deke comes just short of saying it himself. You should have told Deke, though, because if Deke had known, he wouldn't have thought that Enoch was a traitor. But it did look like he was, like, chronicomifying Simmons, so, from his certain point of view, it made perfect sense. The thing with, Simmons being like, come on, and also the thing, do it for Nana, the conversation they had, but yeah, she's like, Deke, come on, and he properly apologizes. I just got done watching Small Beans. If you show me yours, you show me mine. Movies to bring people down, or something like it's very recent. Maggie Mayfish, delight as always, and Adam Ganser, always interesting to listen to discussing movies, and they talk about the value of apologizing and accepting an apology, and how it's not necessarily about ceding ground. It's just, yeah, we got to get better at apologizing. So really appreciated that scene, and yeah, Enoch is like, apology accepted, grandson of my best friend Leopold Fitz. And yeah, it also, now that we got the explanation, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, they erased her memories of where Fitz is, but he's now exposed, so they do gotta do something about that as soon as they can. And now the Diana is messing things up, because, yeah, human memory is a very fragile thing, Our memories can be very easily manipulated sometimes. You might think you saw a thing that you didn't actually see, that sort of thing. So very nicely done on that. But yeah, understandable that Mac is, messed up. Like, he had no choice. Um, but can we just appreciate how wonderfully comic booky this has got? Like, we are on the third The Thing, 1982 story of this show, and I'm not complaining. That's a positive. They did one with robots, then they did one with aliens, and now they're doing one with alien robots. Um, and Despite Mac thinking he was getting some quality time with his parents, he is now having to participate in offing them because they're not his parents. They are time-traveling robots that are trying to take over Earth. That was also a great bit of conversation, the thing about, because that is like a very robotic way of thinking. Well, if it lasts longer, that means it's better, and obviously the human argument that we would make is, but a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts. But yeah, so Mac has to just, it's the kind of thing you just don't get outside of comic book media. Something this, like, intricate and, like, if there wasn't an emotional core, it wouldn't really work. It would just be like kind of spectacle or something. But there is an emotional core, like Mac is having to accept the death of his parents, and also and now his younger self is an orphan, and so is his brother. And also he's having to kill these people. Well, his father. He didn't kill his mother. He kills a robot that looks and sounds just like his father that he's been bonding with for, a little while now, and just, yeah, really, really effectively done. I guess that's it. Right, I did just briefly want to talk about, I like the lead Chronicom guy. Let's go with that. He was the lead in other episodes, and he's the one who's like, we got to listen to the Oracle, Sybil. But yeah, he's discussing matters with Sybil, and they talk about, well, things might not have worked out exactly as we thought, but the agents are divided, and Fitzsimmons have yet to multiply.